Welcome to Reality Check, where we decode the drama, debunk the myths, and deep dive into mental health matters portrayed on the TV screen. My name is Selena. I'm a mental health therapist.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline.
And this is Reality Check. Today, we're going to dive into some holiday episodes, starting with Jacqueline's favorite.
The Princess Switch with Vanessa Hudgens.
Give us a recap.
So it's kind of like Parent Trap in a way, but with
Literally,
princesses.
it's the Parent Trap.
So, and you'll have to refresh me on the names. I cannot remember, but we have one princess who's a baker and who lives in a small town. And then we have another princess who is bound to get married to a king and is going to be a royal princess.
Lady Margot.
And her accent is just like this.
They really like schedule. Their schedules. Everyone's got a schedule.
And she's like, yeah. I love it. But anyway, so yeah, she's a princess, but she wishes to have a normal life. She wants to be able to go see Santa, go shopping when she wants. She doesn't want to be tied to a schedule because the minute she goes to bed to when she wakes up, she has a schedule that her nanny, because I don't know what you call, she's not a butler.
No,
she's like a woman nanny.
A woman nanny.
Well,
She's not babysitting her.
Well, I'm just trying to think what the names are for the girls.
A maid, or like a
she's
like a handler, or
yeah, because she's her right hand.
Yeah, not really lady in waiting. I don't know. She's like her hand. Like the king's hand is like the king's advisor. She's kind of like that. Whatever, the lady.
Anyway, so she has one of those. God me. So she has one of those, and they go to, or they don't go. Miraculously, someone runs into an old man, like always. There's always some either old man or old lady that represents Santa or Mrs. Claus, and they say a few words, and the miracle comes true, and they run into each other, and she's like, "Oh, you look just like me," and she goes, "I have a brilliant idea," and they switch places.
Let's switch our schedules.
Fun fact is, when they switch places, the one doesn't actually know how to cook or bake, and the other one loves to live this normal life and doesn't like to go through a chicane. And go figure, they fall in love with each other's like different men, and then at the bake-off, they come to a head, and they're like, "It was planned all along."
Woo!
Yay!
Yeah, this movie is very Hallmark-esque. It is, if the Lindsay Lohan's version of the Parent Trap had a baby with Princess Diaries, it is, and somewhere in the genetic line was Hallmark, this is the movie for you.
And there's 4 of them.
There's 4 of them. This one was terrible. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I love my cheesy Hallmark movies. They're just so feel good because I know how it ends. I know there's no sad story in it, and I feel like with the holidays, there's already so much grief with the holidays. That's just good to watch a feel good movie.
Totally, yes. And I think that's the point of these types of movies. It's just like it's coming, it's going to be happy. It's like, oh, this is like so cheesy, it's adorable. And, people love these movies, and it's great. And I occasionally do like a Hallmark movie just because, there's always a baker in a small town, and there's Santa and there's snow, and it's adorable. So I can see why you like this movie. It's okay.
And cool. I picked this because it wasn't a musical. I like the musical ones too because they're cute and fun. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a feel good, warm in your heart, type of movie.
So let's deep dive into these people.
Yes. Yes.
It was harder for me to deep dive because it was so magical, unrealistic in real life. the baker Vanessa, I don't remember her name. We should look up her name.
Lady Margot and
Stacey.
Stacey Delanova.
Stacey Delanova in Margot. Lady Margaret Delacour, Duchess of Montenero.
I love that. Montenero. When I watched this, I think another reason why I like it is because I wish I was Lady Margot. It's a good movie to replace yourself from reality and put yourself in like a crystal ball.
I mean, that's quite literally what they did. They like switched realities. Yeah, so we have Stacey. I am making a note to remember her name. First we have Stacey. Opening scene, she's like still heartbroken over Paul, who has moved on, and Paul, yeah. She is very like rigid in her no, she's rigid with her schedule. Her schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Her schedule.
I can't.
You said it so many times.
They did.
The schedule. Sorry. So she's very neurotic. She likes her schedule. I wrote relatable likes her schedule because she went on her trip to wherever the bake off was, and she was like, we need to follow this schedule. And I, you know me, we've vacationed together. I really like my schedule, not to the point where she likes her schedule, and like I'm not like you have to follow it, but like I like things to be organized, so that's very relatable. And you were very much like the friend in this movie where it's you're like, we're just gonna go with the flow, and I'm like, we can't have that.
Yes. I definitely related to that of the go with the flow, just kind of figure it out. But I also wonder, because not everything, most things we track back to childhood trauma. Why is she like a go with the schedule person?
Oh, there's many reasons. It could be she just likes to know what's coming. It's like she can prepare. The quote was, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans, is what the quote that they kept saying. And then like her friend said it, and then like the Christmassy man said it. And so it's like she is not living in the moment, she's living in the future, like waiting on the next thing. So there's like a protective factor in that of, if I am planning for the next thing, then I know what's going to happen, I know what to expect, and I know how to plan.
Oh, didn't look at it that way.
Yeah. So I mean, there are many reasons why, because if we can guess the future, then there's safety in that. So yeah, that could be, who knows exactly why, but there is like safety in knowing the future and like what to expect.
Right. Yeah, so what else do you want to dive in on these magical characters?
So sticking with Stacey, I mainly focus on Stacey because Lady Margot was like, she's a perfect little lady. There was one time they were horseback riding with the prince, Stacey and the prince, horseback riding. And then they're like, this is where I come to get away. I love you. Very much in their feels. And then I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said something to piss her off. And she was like, because you think I should be planning the wedding? That's my only job. And she like got on her horse and ran away or trotted away. And she could work on her conflict resolution skills because she's just like, gotta go. Bye, peace out. And there are people who fight like that of, you said something to piss me off, I'm gonna just like shut you out and run away. Yeah. Did I strike a chord?
No, I don't do that. No, I talk it out. I talk it out. Next week we'll talk.
Tweet.
Let it boil a few weeks. Yeah, she definitely does that. And he is left speechless. He's like, "What did I do?" Because in his world, that is mainly what the woman's role is to plan events, plan weddings, just show up and wave and then walk out. They're not meant to, in that world, have, dare I say it, a brain. What are you doing?
She walks like this the entire time. Her arms.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I don't.
Those of you on Spotify listening in, she walks with her elbows out and then her hands together in the middle of her chest, and I guess waddles.
She floats, waddles. Yeah. In waves.
And it's crazy to think that the worlds are so different, because she had to learn how to curtsy. She had to learn how to properly talk to someone. And she's like, I can't just say, "Hey, what's up?" And they're like, no, you need to say, "Hello, darling," or "How may I help you?"
Slept like a log, a royal log.
Yes. I'm just so tired. And he's not, also in that world, he's not supposed to see them in their 90s. And she opened the door in her 90s, and he was like, "Do you need to get dressed?" And I'm over here thinking, well, that's weird. If I had to hide my 90s, I don't think I'd ever get married, because I love walking around in my little moo outfits. My silky pajamas, like.
It's raining.
Yes. So.
Yes. So back to the argument. So he is like, women don't typically have an opinion. She's like, I'm pissed. I have an opinion. Goodbye. Deuces. See, talk to you never. Rides off with her horse that she quickly learned how to ride. And then he's like, he gave it a mostly good apology. He expressed, so making a good apology is like, he expressed like what he did wrong. I don't think he actually said like, I'm sorry. I think it depends on what kind of person you are. He said, I need to apologize. He didn't. To make the good apology, if we're talking like attunement, making a repair within a relationship, typically you want to say like, I understand how this made you feel, and this made you feel insert feeling word here. Maybe it's like, in this case, it's, I made you feel less than, like your opinion didn't matter and I apologize for that. And I can understand how frustrating that can be. So mostly decent apology there. Another interesting thing is like, you're like my grandmother. And so in a way, he is marrying a version of his grandmother, which, most of us date some version of a parental figure.
Do we know?
We do. We just repeat. We repeat patterns. Not everyone, but most of us like to repeat our patterns. Then so now like, yay, we love each other again. And now we fast forward to the end where it's like the big reveal, we switched. And then Stacey's like, she runs away again. This girl can't stay present.
I love it.
She runs away for dramatic effect again, and he chases after her, and he's like, I love you. And she's like, I can't be a princess. Like, which, like, there's some sort of like self-confidence thing going on there. I can't be a princess. This is not how it's supposed to go. Again, rigid in her rules. Like, she has to follow the rules. If it deviates outside of the rules, she literally runs away and doesn't know what to do with herself. So she could work on going with the flow. She could also work on being okay with like living outside of these rigid lines, like practicing that, like not having a schedule. not always following these rigid rules, because life is not rigid. It's very much gray, not black and white. And then he's like, will you marry me? We've solved this problem in 30 seconds. Will you marry me in a year from now if you still love me? And of course she says yes, and they have a Christmas wedding. If therapist, don't recommend getting engaged to someone you've only known for 2 days.
Yeah.
I think you should do a little more lifing together before you. But this is like a Hallmark movie, so of course they're gonna live happily ever after. But in reality, probably shouldn't marry someone you've known for 2 days.
Give it
Especially
at
when
least
you've
8
already
days.
had 2 arguments. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
You need to learn to stay and not run away from an argument before you get married, and stay and have that conversation. It'd be great.
Yes, the biggest thing in relationships are conversations. And if you cannot have them, especially when you're angry or sad or whatever emotion you are going through, then your relationship is going to face a lot of hardships.
Yeah, because you're not attuning. So when I say attuning, it's like you know your partner, you know how they're feeling, and they know how you're feeling, and we're creating space for both of those feelings in the same room. And it's not this I'm shutting down because you're feeling some type of way, or I'm feeling some type of way, so I'm shutting down and I'm not letting you get close to me. And so when we are attuning to our partner, when we're feeling what they're feeling and understanding what they're feeling and holding space, that's really vulnerable, because to do that, we also have to allow them to see us and our emotions.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with all that.
Let's talk about Kevin. We're going to guess this woman is 25. That feels somewhere in the 25-ish range, right? She's has a business. She's been in it for a few years. They have been friends since high school.
I know where you're going with this. Yes, they have.
They have been friends since high school. He is like, you're neurotic, you're so rigid, all of these things, but I love you as a friend. There's no sparks. And then we go to this country, the switch happens. He does not know, but the little girl Olivia figures it out within the first 20 minutes of her walking into the room. You are not the same person. But he can't figure it out. He literally was just like, there's no sparks. She's too uptight for me, essentially. And then he finds this girl who is the opposite of her, and is madly in love with his best friend, who he's not liked romantically for I don't know, 6-7 years plus. And how you not gonna know your friend that well?
Yeah, I think what happened was she changed, and he was in denial on liking her, and he finally realized that he broke the barrier of friendship circle and is now in the dating circle, and he's like, I can't believe I did that. But I don't think if she changed, nothing would have happened. But the fact he didn't figure it out is alarming.
It is alarming. Be a little
He
more
not aware of what's going on in his life.
Her language is different. She's using different words, and they don't question that. And all of a sudden, she cuts her hair and comes back all relaxed.
I know.
You don't know your friend's going through a crisis if you think this is if she didn't switch and we're walking under the assumption.
Yes.
We're walking under the assumption that your friend did not switch, and you came to me and you cut your hair and you're speaking using completely different words that you would normally use, I would be like, Jacqueline, are you okay? What is happening? You were gone for an hour, And now you're back. You are completely different. I'm not just gonna be like, oh, I now love you. No, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be like, girl, you okay?
I don't know why he hasn't dated since his wife or girlfriend, whoever that is, died.
Mm-hmm.
But he hasn't, and that also leads me to think that he was holding out for, her. And it just so happened that she's finally this girl he's always wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't want
So,
to question it because he's been waiting for so long, I wonder. Like, if you've been waiting for
mm-hmm.
something for so long, sometimes you just don't question it. You're like, maybe I'll just go with the flow and see what happens here. Because he is a go with the flow guy. So, someone who is scheduled, an honest schedule like you,
Mm-hmm.
you would obviously notice things like that. He is not. He's just like, oh, maybe she's just having a different day today for weeks.
Just 2 days.
Felt like a
um,
week.
yeah, if he's playing out this fantasy of like one day she's going to change,
Mm-hmm.
this is a great topic. I can't tell you. There are many people out there who get into a relationship and hope that one day it will get better when it's like rocky,
Mm-hmm.
and without actually working on it, and this expectation that this person's personality will change, right? So if we're working off the idea of like, I'm holding out for her to not be so rigid and not be so type A, that's a lot of her personality, and that's a lot of like self-work to work through. The fact that he's hanging, if this was like, we're going with a storyline of like he's waiting for her to like change so that he could be in a relationship with her, this is like, it's setting him up for failure, because when they like switched back, she was like, I just want to be your friend, right? Like, she's always going to be. So he's hanging on to this idea, this romanticized version, which is the Lady Margot is the romanticized version of what he wants her to be. But she's never going to be that, because she's Stacey the baker. She will always
She's
be.
set in her ways.
Yeah, she'll always be Stacey the baker. And yes,
Yeah.
people can change, but that takes a lot of like therapy and self-reflection and self-work. But she's not just gonna like magically switch into Lady Margot's personality if we're playing like they're the same people but different personalities. That is such like, I think that's such a fantasy that people have because they want this relationship to work. And so instead of letting it go and moving on to a relationship that's healthier for them or more compatible for them, they hang on to this idea. The idea being she will turn into Lady Margot when
Hey,
she's
it worked.
Stacey the baker. I mean, sure, it worked because she literally switched with someone else.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. And that once again will, I mean, that's not good to set your relationship out, off on, because imagine, I wonder what she was thinking. Like, so you mean you did like me this entire time? She's
Mhm.
identical to me. Like, I would
Mhm.
literally sit on the sidelines and be like, wait a minute. Yeah.
Something's off.
Yeah, something strange here. She looks just like me, and you like her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And same for the prince. Granted, the prince even said it was a setup for them to get married, like most royal families are.
Mhm.
And he honestly didn't know what he liked because it was a setup and he didn't have a choice. So I think this is a big refreshment for him when he did get a little bit of Stacey and, mixed with Margot, because he actually got to see what the real world is like. Like when she brought the toys to the orphanage and they had that Christmas thing. He was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that this is a thing. This is awesome. You actually care. You're not just up here dotting I's and crossing T's. You actually have feelings. Like, this is what I want." Because him and Margot even had a talk of like, we aren't what each other wants.
Yes, which makes me think of my next point. He's very forgiving.
I know, isn't that sweet?
The- sure, and you're not gonna be mad that this person lied to you, for 2 days of like deceived you, you're not gonna, and also like you're not gonna talk to like, hey, what is it like? I only know that you bake and that's the only real thing about you. Like, yeah, we've had conversations and like I'm a charitable person. I don't know how to ride horses and I can magically learn to play the piano within like 30 seconds. But I don't really know anything about you and your life, but I'm okay because I love you because of all these other things. You don't
Yeah,
know
I mean,
foundational things about her life and you're just going to be like, I don't care. I don't care as long as I get to have you.
yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of people do. They ignore the red flags because they're happy. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're happy, you finally are happy. You're finally there where you want to be. So you ignore the red flags, whatever the red flag may be. Now, if the red flag was harmful, not saying lying is not, but if the red flag was physically harmful, then absolutely he'd probably be like, no way, bye bye. But it wasn't anything. They brushed it off. They said their apologies. She felt bad about it. And even Lady Margot stepped up and said, this was my idea, not hers. Like, don't be mad at her, be mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
So from the get go, when they talked at the end, she made it very clear to not be mad at Stacey. So he had no choice but to say, "Oh, I guess you're right." Because at first he was like, "Wait, what happened?" And that's when she was like, "This is all my idea. I did this. I saw her. I just took an opportunity to live a normal life, and I fell in love now, and I want to live this life." And that's when he was like, "Well, I need a queen or a princess, so let's get down on a knee." But they didn't marry right then and there. They
No, they
married a
waited
year
a
later.
year. They married a year. So I'm
So
happy they
see,
waited a year. I'm
they
happy they
did.
waited a
They
year.
Mm-hmm.
It was a quick engagement, quick dating period.
Yeah, but you
Pretty
can call off
relatively normal.
engagement. Yeah,
Yes.
engagements are there's
Um,
no money in the pit on engagements. You can call it off. It's you know.
to your point about when we're happy we ignore red flags. I think it's more nuanced, more complicated when we like this idea of being in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship and then we ignore red flags, whether that relationship's healthy for us or not. We tend to not, or we want to avoid having those hard conversations, or we are worried about like what it looks like when we are single, and so we hang on to the relationship to ignore the red flags because this idea of being alone is terrifying, which it is.
To some
um
people.
to some people very much enjoy being alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't know this person. I would love for
Right.
them if we were I understand this is a movie, but if we take it into reality, we give them a reality check.
Yes.
um yeah, let's have more conversations about who we are as people, if our values align, right? Like, for example, values not aligning is like the prince was like, oh, we don't need to bother ourselves with the details of the charity, we just like give them money and it's fine. And she's like, no, 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 you actually like need to be involved in this so understand what's happening, right? His value wasn't really like being charitable, it was about making an appearance to look charitable, and her value was actually being charitable.
Right.
So if they had conflict on that, if their values didn't align, they can talk about that. They came to an alignment in their values, and he was like, yeah, we'll do this once a month, we'll come here and like make sure that they got Christmas presents, yada yada yada. But if he was like, no, I'm not doing that, I don't have time for that, that's going to cause like conflict in their relationship. So they should take that year, ideally more, to figure out like their goals and their values and how they fit into each other's lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And it's true. I mean, if he didn't give it a shot, none of that would have happened.
They
If
wouldn't have
he
had
didn't
their
say, clear
Christmas
my
wedding.
schedule.
My schedule.
My schedule. So what's the takeaway of all this?
The takeaway of all this is to have hard conversations. This is a very romanticized version of love. I mean, obviously, that's what the movie is for. And relationships take work. They take vulnerability. And when you can live inside the gray, you don't have to live to a rigid schedule.
Yeah, and another takeaway is be very much aware of what your friend is going through.
If your friend cuts her hair, start using different words. Check in on her.
Yeah.
She not okay. Or she quite literally not herself. Okay. This has been Reality Check. I am a licensed therapist. Meh. Just because I'm a licensed therapist doesn't mean that I am your therapist. I highly encourage, if this struck a chord in you, that you seek out therapy for yourself. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for next week.
Bye.
Bye.